Welcome to EOTalks, Eastern Oregon's very own talk show, only here on EO Alive.
So first up, please introduce yourself and tell us which office you're running for.
Thanks, Alex, for the opportunity here. My name is Todd Nash, and I'm running for District 29, the far northeast Oregon corner, on across as far south as Wheeler County, Jefferson, and as far west as part of Clackamas and Marion County. So all those along the Columbia River up to Wasco and back this way.
Alrighty, so other than being a county commissioner, what do you do professionally?
Well, I've been a number of things throughout my life, a logger, a mill worker, rancher, of late, and for the last nearly 30 years, full-time into ranching. But county commissioner position, I was elected in 2017 and have done that since that time.
Awesome. Now, can you tell me more about your accomplishments as a county commissioner?
Yeah, one of the main accomplishments was taking the leadership role there and being elected into that position by my peers in Oregon Cattlemen's Association. I needed the support of my fellow county commissioners, and I asked them for support, my family, but taking that role on simultaneously with the county commissioner job has been quite a challenge. It's been really gratifying too, and put me into a position where I can, I think, better advocate for my county. One of the things that I did right off the bat as a county commissioner that was aside from that was our timber sales on U.S. Forest Service are generally challenged here in this part of the world. And one of the first ones that came up was the Lost Dean Corridor project, and I jumped right in the middle of that. I conscripted some help, and Wallowa County entered that case as interveners. We ended up going all the way to the Ninth Circuit, and we won that case. And that project was logged by local loggers. A lot of the material was processed here at our last sawmill, and that was really gratifying to see that one come to fruition. Being appointed to the Natural Resource Committee chair position at Association of Oregon Counties under both Democrat and Republican leadership there in those appointments. That was a accomplishment to be able to be there, one, but also to be able to advocate for all of Oregon and some of those natural resource situations. Building coalitions with legislators, with different groups like Oregon Cattlemen's, Oregon Hunters Association, Trappers, the Farm Bureau, Forestry, and others. That's been something that I've focused on and tried to hold as many good relationships there as I can, and then advocating for legislation and bringing up points of legislation that needed to be put in the form of bills and seeing those through, helping to advocate for them and to be a part of that process. I've done that for a long time, even before I was a commissioner, but certainly been heavily involved in that, and that's been gratifying, rewarding, and I hope it's been helpful to my community. Bringing back, I was appointed as liaison to our fair here, our county fair in Wallowa County, and advocating for our fair, but fairs across the state. We've been able to bring quite a lot of money back, and in the last few years, from 5 different tranches of money, we were able to bring $2 million back to our county fair for some much needed deferred maintenance on our fairgrounds, and look forward to doing some more of that too. We came close to getting 2510 or 471 passed this year. That would have given us 1% of video lottery dollars to keep that going, and so that we wouldn't have to keep going back to the legislature time after time to advocate for that. But any rate, we didn't win this time, but I'll keep that up. And then lastly, when I was first elected and was going to take the position, there was discussion around the courthouse here in Wallowa County and what to do about it. And part of it was in disrepair, needed a new roof, needed some structural work, and needed an elevator to come up to compliance with some of the state and federal codes, and the wiring. There was a number of things that needed to be done. Seemed a little daunting, but I felt like it was a structure worth saving, and we did get all of that done. We took out a loan for $750,000 on some of it, but we paid that off this year, and so that's been very gratifying to see this building restored, utilized, and not move out of it and build a courthouse somewhere else. So iconic building, and that's one of my favorite things. And Commissioner Roberts did a tremendous amount of work on that. I don't want to sound like I was the Lone Ranger. She did way more work on that than I did, but we needed to have advocacy for that, and I was glad to help.
Nice. Now, can you tell me a little bit more about your personal biography?
Yeah, and I won't go into a whole lot of detail and bore people, but my family moved here in 1968 from Northern California, and my dad, he was involved in the ranching and logging community, and then later on moved over to Hermiston, Oregon. My folks split up, and I resided here. My mom held a number of different jobs, and we got by pretty well here. But anyway, I ended up graduating from high school here in Enterprise High School. I went to Lynn Benton Community College, and I was able to work in the woods in the summer and make enough money to get through a year of college at that time, and intended to go on to 4-year school, but started a family instead, moved back here to Wallowa County, and I've been here ever since, and raised 4 kids here. I worked in the sawmill. I worked on farms, ranches, and ended up managing ranch, and then later leasing it, and then having ownership in it, and now we've reduced down to kind of a manageable situation to where my wife and I can run a small herd of cattle, and I can do this job as commissioner and manage this and take on the Oregon Cattlemen's Association presidency, and that's kind of it in a nutshell, without going into a whole lot of detail.
Nice. Now, can you tell me more about your community of Wallowa County?
Yeah, Wallowa County is far northeast Oregon. We border 3 different counties: Umatilla, Union, and Baker County. We border 2 states, Idaho and Washington. We have the deepest gorge in North America. We have the largest wilderness in the state of Oregon, and the highest lake in the state of Oregon, Lagore Lake, right up below Sawtooth Peaks. We have a lot of tourism here. 270,000 plus people visited the state park at Wallowa Lake last year. It's a natural resource based economy still, and I consider that natural resource as part of the draw that brings in the tourism. But we export some of the fanciest hay in the world comes out of this area. In fact, some of the FFA kids were going through Churchill Downs a few years ago from here, and one of them commented, said, that looks like our hay right there, some Timothy hay. And the person there that was leading them on the tour said, no, that comes a long ways away. That comes all the way from a little town of Joseph, Oregon. And the student said, yeah, that is our hay. So we have a reputation for very high quality hay, both alfalfa and Timothy, and it garners quite a premium. Cattle is still king in this area as far as the dollars that come out, and there's people that bring cattle in here from other counties. They go out of here and get finished in counties like Morrow, Umatilla, over in the Vale area in Malheur County, and others, and out of state. But and then the logging industry has been substantial for a long time. Since we saw the listing of Chinook salmon, we've had a severe reduction in the amount of timber that gets taken off both our federal and private timber lands, and it would be nice to get some of that back, but that's kind of it. The basic parameters of Wallowa County. There's a lot more to it, but 7,400 people reside here year round, and we try to keep up with everything that we need to, including 700 miles of road and the safety and security for all the tourists that come in here as well.
It is a really beautiful part of the state. Now, as you talk to Senate District 29 residents, what issues are you hearing them say they would like the next senator to focus on?
Yeah, there's a wide variety. You know, one of the things that, because it came up for a vote here recently, and it's been on the ballot in other places, but certainly the greater Idaho, I hear quite a little bit about that. And the frustration of Salem not listening to us, or us not having a voice in Salem. And there's a large variety of other things that come up between housing, getting our natural resources back rolling again in the timber industry. I hear a lot about water, the ability to utilize our water in ways that keep it sustainable, and you know, the recharge that's going to go on over there in Umatilla County, some of that was funded for. I think that's a great project. The Wallowa Lake Dam, you hear locally, and then energy has become a giant issue with the discussions around the lower Snake River dams, the 4 lower Snake River dams. Salmon recovery at the same time is an issue that gets discussed a lot. The siting of huge pieces of ground for both solar and wind power are concerning. And so that's just a few of them that I hear about. And I'm sure that I'm missing a lot of them, but those are the ones I've heard of late, just traveling around.
Well, they're very important issues. Who would you say is your favorite Oregon historical figure?
You know, I would have to say Chief Joseph. You know, I had the privilege of riding around horseback in a lot of this country that he rode around in, and got to see some of his sites, some of his artifacts, and you know, they had 10,000 head of horses and cattle when they exited this area in 1877, and the fact that he kept advocating. He went back to Washington, D.C. He was very articulate. You know, I just admired his tenacity to keep going. And I was talking to one of my neighbors the other day, and they're longtime pioneers to this area. And he said, it was pretty well known between his great granddad and some of those early settlers that they wouldn't have made it through those first few winters hadn't not been for the Nez Perce Indians. And so, I think he's certainly a man to be admired, and a fascinating individual in history, and to live here in the same place that he did. For me, that's if I got to draw one, and there's a lot of them, I'll go with Chief Joseph.
And Chief Joseph was a very profound leader. Now, what would you say are the primary sources of your personal values?
Could you repeat that one more time? I had a hard time hearing you, Alex.
Oh, sorry about that. All right. What are the primary sources of your personal values?
The primary sources of my personal values. Well, certainly the principles of the Bible, the Word of God, are at the center of all that. But the influence that the people around me had that lived by those principles were certainly made the largest impact, because they were living those things. Other things that kind of shaped some of those values early on were when I was logging. You generally got paid by how much you produced, and so when I was cutting logs, you got $1.25 a piece, and you had to do a quality job. I always kind of reflect back that you got paid what you were actually producing, and so I think some of those early lessons and even with ranching, if you don't you're not profitable, you don't find a way to make a profit, you don't get paid. I think all of those weigh into a lot of the values that I have, both ethically and fiscally.
All righty. Now, do you anticipate any criticism from your opponents, and do you have responses to any potential criticism you think you may face?
Well, I don't know. I hate to speculate on what the criticisms might be, but you provoke the question, so I'll do my best to answer. Being centered in natural resources would probably be one of my largest criticisms, and it's an area where I feel like I have some expertise, and I've spent a lot of time, and I'm ready to take a lot of those things on. Still a lot to learn, because it's a broad area and some of it's very complex. But I will say, in response to that criticism, as a commissioner, you don't get to specialize in just one thing. So you're dealing with anything from transportation to land use to landfills to recycling, and the list goes on and on. The personnel issues, those things that just individuals have to deal with on a daily basis, and don't know how to get through the minutia of detail that comes with the challenges of dealing with a government. Taking those calls, trying to figure out what is the best solution. Having been here, elected in 2016, taken the office in 2017, I think has been invaluable to me, and helped prepare for trying to understand a lot of issues that were way out of my comfort area, and sometimes even out of my interest, but you have to go there in order to cover them.
Alrighty. Now, given the use of walkouts by the Republican Senate caucus during the last 5 sessions, would you plan to participate in potential future walkouts organized by the Republican caucus?
Well, I certainly wouldn't plan on it, but if there's a time when there's something that is as challenging as 2002 and 2005 were this year, those two bills, I think, warranted a walkout. And there's been others that have warranted walkouts. But those things that are ethically challenging to those core principles that many of us hold near and dear, I think it's worth doing. And when it is the only political card that you have left to play, you have to play it. But I certainly wouldn't plan on it. I want to go down there to work on legislation, to participate, to be a voice, and you can't be a voice in the building if you're not in the building. So I'm not planning on it. If that day comes and that challenge comes, I fully supported those guys walking out. I think it was the right thing to do.
Alrighty, now we're on to our world famous lightning round. So first off, Ducks or Beavers?
I got to go Beavers. You know, I went to Lynn Benton Community College. It was 10 miles away from OSU, and we watched some really good basketball in the early 80s and some really questionable football. And one of the track stars from Elgin, Gid Risden, was down there, and I got to see him dominate in the Pac-10 a little bit. That was a lot of fun going over there and watching that.
Nice. What is your favorite Eastern Oregon landmark?
Well, it's right above my house, you know, Ruby Peak. I've hunted it, I've climbed it, I've camped on it. I took my kids up there, and it lays just to the west, and it's been in the evening shadow for me for a large part of my life. So I'm going to go Ruby Peak.
Nice. What is your favorite Oregon beer?
Well, I haven't drank any alcohol for 33 years, so I missed out on a lot of the trendy beer, and so I can't answer that question very well. I'm sure there's some good ones out there that I missed out on, but I don't have one.
All right. What would be your favorite Oregon produced food or beverage?
Well, you know, I like beef, and I love a good rib steak. In fact, I grilled one up last night, and I love rib steak.
Nice. Last up, what is your favorite restaurant in Northeast Oregon?
Favorite restaurant? You know, the Imnaha Store and Tavern has a little restaurant, and it's a place that I have fond memories of. I worked down the canyons for a long time, and about once every other month, or maybe once every month and a half or so, go down there and have a lunch and take a little break, and I still go there occasionally. And that's my favorite little restaurant.
Nice. Last up, can you share your contact info and share some final thoughts with our audience?
Yeah. My contact information, you can look it up as a commissioner here. I put my cell phone out there. I have through Cattlemen's Association as well, 541-263-0426. And then my personal email is like my name, TODDP as in Paul, NASH @gmail.com. You can also go to a website, votetoddnash.com, and we've set up a website there. And if you want to support me in any way, I would love your support. I want to win this campaign. I want to be a voice here for Eastern Oregon. I want to be a voice for Central Oregon. It is certainly part of this district. It's a huge district. I look forward to going down there. I love to advocate for people. I love to hear your stories, and I'm looking forward to serving as your senator should I win the day. That's about all I have. Thank you, Alex.